When I unboxed this watch for the first time, I laughed when I saw how small it was. That's not a good way to start, is it? Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Look, I'm well aware that size is a deeply personal issue, and normally I'm a fan of smaller than average watches. Indeed, the last watch I reviewed on the channel was the May & Greenwich 38, a watch that got a good review, at least in part because I'm a fan of a smaller case. Some watches I think will really suit a smaller case dimension, some watches don't suit it nearly as much, and this Citizen Bullhead retro reissue is screaming out for an extra couple of millimeters, I think. It is essentially a modern, updated quartz re-release of a classic automatic Citizen Bullhead 8110 movement watch from the late 1960s and early 1970s, popularised recently on the wrist of Brad Pitt in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, from what I can gather, Citizen have reproduced the dimensions of this Bullhead faithfully to the original, perhaps a little too faithfully. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Alright, while I'm taking out the standard Citizen cardboard packaging, let's talk cash. I believe this is a Japanese and Asia Pacific only model. Not globally available at the moment, but that doesn't mean to say you can't buy it, obviously. Here in Australia, the RRP is 399 Aussie dollars. I paid $100 less for it. I paid 299, which is about the equivalent of 225 US dollars. You can buy it from Japanese retailers that export for 300 USD. Couldn't find too many on eBay, and most of them are more expensive than that. Ironically, the cheapest one I could find, if you live in the States, was 299 US dollars, and it was available from Australia. So maybe we get a decent deal on something for once. So there it is, folks. Feel free to zoom in or come a little closer to your chosen device if that helps. I have told you one of the key dimensions already, that being 38mm in diameter, but that isn't the only dimension you need to concern yourself with today. 11.7mm thick, 41 lug to lug. Now, 38, 41, I think that makes it just too small. 18mm lug width, and on the supplied rolled link stainless steel bracelet, it weighs in at 99 grams. Now, 38mm, like I said, I have owned and reviewed a bunch of 38s. This is really small when you compare it to all of them. So on the left here is a main Hudson diver representing a kind of small size diver at exactly 38mm with a bezel. The Citizen does not have the crown at 3 o'clock, being a bullhead, so it loses that extra dimension there. It also has a much shorter lug to lug. The main is 46, overall giving the Citizen a much more diminutive look compared to a standard dive watch. On the left is the Arctic Explorer by the Tool Watch Company, a new Kickstarter project, kind of titanium explorer's watch that I've got coming up for review this weekend. So bezel-less, it doesn't have that extra girth provided by a dive time bezel, but it does have the longer lug to lug, the 3 o'clock crown, and a much bigger dial. Look at just how small the Citizen's dial is. And finally, probably the closest comparison in terms of function and utility, it's the 38mm chronograph, the Seagull 1963 on the left. But again, the Seagull has the crown and the pushers on the right, giving extra bulk. It has longer lugs, giving extra length north and south of the dial, and the dial itself is just so much bigger. Look at the Citizen. It's got a fixed bezel, it's got an inward sloping chapter ring, meaning the dial on the Citizen, I measure it at 25mm. The Seagull, I measure it at 30mm. That is a vast gulf in the terms of the area of those two dials. Plus the Citizen has a date complication, plus it has a third register, meaning I think it looks small and I think it looks a bit crushed. It's not all bad though. I do like the panda colour scheme on this one, even if it is a baby panda, and I think it is nicely finished. Very fine brushing on the side of the case and a longitudinal brush on the upper case. I guess that is some kind of IP or PVD coated black fixed bezel there. And we have the crown and the pushers at the top. It's a tiny little crown, but at least they give you a little nick there so you can get your thumb underneath it when you need to. Now, the chrono is a 12-hour chrono. They've just switched the 1 and the 4 to an 11 and a 1, so you push it once there to start. Only ticks once per second though. Push it there to stop and push it there to slow reset. Bracelet isn't great though, nicely finished on the upper surface, but it's one of these pressed rolled bracelets, so it does take the hairs off your arms. Citizen clasp, it's one of those multi-adjustable ones, just like you'd find on a $30 Casio. Push-on stainless steel case back, push-pull crown, 50 meters, 5 bar, 5 atmospheres of water resistance. Japan movement, but it did have a sticker on it saying assembled in China. Let's take it outside and have a look at it under macro though, and as I said, it is an attractive watch. I chose the Panda colorway. There are blue versions though, and crucially there is a gold one. I will circle back to that a bit later on. Now that Citizen brand name is applied in a silver font there beneath the index at 12 o'clock. All those indices are applied as well. Chronograph just printed on, and quartz. WR50 squeezed cheekily between the indexes at 7 and 8. There is also a rather awkwardly placed and rather deeply set date complication down there, just nudging up against the index at 5. Tri-compacts, 3 register layout, so the register at the 3 o'clock is actually a tick in small second, the register at the 9 o'clock counts up in minutes to an hour, and that is the 12-hour timer down there at the 6 o'clock. Looking across the watch, there is actually a surprising amount of depth, given that it's only 11.7mm thick, double dome mineral covering the dial and the handset. Angle chaptering, as I mentioned, with 5-minute Arabics printed on there too. And you can see all 3 of those sub-registers are somewhat recessed, but not as deeply recessed as the date complication. And if I zoom right in, you can see that all 3 sub-registers have identical orange hands, and again the chrono hand is also orange. High polished silver hour and minute hand, and they're beveled down the middle. So an attractive looking little watch, and actually pretty good lume considering it's a budget chronograph. You wouldn't necessarily expect it. The applied indices certainly help, as do reasonably long strips of lume on the hour hand and the minute hand. When I crank the speed up, you can see that the hands look like they're fading before the indices, but overall not bad. That's it on wrist. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference, which is roughly average size. If I'm looking down at my wrist and thinking that this is probably too small for me, then that means that people with average size wrists or above are probably doing the same thing. Another issue with this one is the bracelet is very thin and very light, meaning most of the weight is in the top of the watch. If you wear it loose, it is going to bobble and it's going to rotate on wrist. And because it's a rolled link bracelet, it's going to take some of your hairs off every time it does that. Now 18mm lug width, you can swap this out for a leather strap or something else, and it's not unattractive. It does catch the light very nicely. But again, you're kind of chasing bad design in the first place. I would love to have seen this as a 40-20 rather than a 38-18. Because that dial is so damn small, and because the hands are silver against white, legibility is not fabulous either. And outside natural light, the mineral crystal does a reasonable job of keeping things legible. You can see glinting from those high polished silver hands occasionally depending on the angle. Similarly, it's a very pleasant wrist roll. The light does play very nicely on those horizontal links of the bracelet. Incredibly compact lug to lug really. Pigeon wrists are going to be fine with this one at 41mm. Clearly this one lost me as soon as I opened the box. $300 although I admit I paid less than that, plus you're going to have to pay import taxes etc. if you do buy one from Japan, for a 50-meter water resistant single tick quartz chrono with mineral crystal and a rolled link bracelet. Yeah, I'm not really seeing too much value here today either. So what to do? Well, you do have options. I think your first option is you track down this one in gold in full cliff booth once upon a time in Hollywood on the boon strap. A boon strap would definitely bulk it up. It'll still be a bit small and it will still have 18mm lugs, but yeah, this is going to look far more impressive on wrist than the Panda version on the bracelet that I've got. Option 2 is that you opt for a homage. Dave Deagle at Detroit Mint released his own version of this one just after the film was released. It's a 40-20, it's a good looking watch, and it's well priced at $225, and that includes sapphire crystal rather than mineral. He also sells an optional bund. Option 3 is that you track down an original rather than going for the quartz reissue. It'll cost you more, it'll probably cost you twice as much money, but you will be getting the real deal and you'll be getting an automatic citizen movement from the early 1970s rather than a single tick quartz chrono that you're getting today. This is one occasion where I would steer you towards finding an original rather than the retro reissue. Option 4, if you want a 38mm chronograph with a great backstory, why not buy the Seagull 1963 in the first place? You get a mechanical rather than a quartz. You also get sapphire crystal, and you're paying about half the money. These are all over AliExpress for about 150 US dollars. So clearly then, not for me this one. I've been getting into Citizen more and more this year, but I'll give this one a miss. But that's just me. What about you? Are you delighted that it is a faithful reissue in terms of the size being a 3818, or do you agree that they would have sold a shed load more if they'd gone slightly more contemporary and made it a 4020? Leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts. So there you have it. You've almost made it to the end of the video. Give yourself a pat on the back. What are you going to watch next? Well, if you like this Bullhead style, why not check out the Detroit Mint homage to the Citizen? Or if you want a well-priced 38mm chrono, check out the Seagull 1963. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.